Good evening, everyone, or good morning, depending on when you're watching this video. This is Arcacia with Patch Homeschoolers, and I'm here with Eric and Leanne Rocke, and this is our family spotlight for the month of June. So thank you guys for joining us, Eric and Leanne.
You're welcome.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Well, great to have you guys here. We're going to hear a little bit about your story. So let's kind of jump right into it. Why don't you guys tell us a little bit about your family and how you got started homeschooling? Because you guys have a little bit of a different take on a non-traditional type homeschooling family.
Go ahead, Leanne.
Sure.
It starts with you.
So I was married to Derek Souter in 2003, and our oldest was born in 2004, Lexi. And when she was about 3 or 4 years old, we were talking about homeschooling, didn't think we ever would. But we thought, well, we'll just go to the convention one year and just see what it's about. And we attended, and that was that. He was
You're
convinced. And
hooked.
so I had kind of wanted to before that, because I had a good friend that did, and I saw the flexibility and kind of the freedom in her schedule when she had a kindergartner and she didn't have to be away from her all day long. And I just thought that was appealing. So that was the beginning of our journey. And then Lexi was in fourth grade when Derek got cancer, and so well, he had been diagnosed a little before that, but she was in fourth grade about halfway through the year when we realized we weren't keeping up. So we um, asked to attend Christian Life Academy, which was in Hopedale and about 10 minutes from us. And so she and our son Wesley and our daughter Whitley were in school at the time. And they went down there for, I think we were at CLA for about 4 years during Derek's illness and passing away. And then I married Eric in 2015. And soon after that, the older two kids came back home to homeschool. And then Whitley and Lainey were still at CLA until 2020, and they came back home. And then Eric and I had Miles, and he's been just homeschooling. He just finished kindergarten. So that's kind of the years in a quick, brief overview. But we've
That's great.
had two graduates now, and we have one in high school, one in sixth grade, just finished, and kindergarten.
Those are some great years too. And I'm sure you're probably homeschooling differently a little bit now with the younger one than you did with the older ones, because that's how what I learned. Because I also have a wide span of kids, and I'm not homeschooling my youngest. It's like I'm homeschooling, like I homeschooled my oldest. It's definitely a different experience.
Yeah, I would say I enjoy it more as the years go by, for
hmm
sure. I just feel more in rhythm and that I'm able to maybe keep up with what I want to get done, where I don't have a baby anymore or a toddler. So it's a little easier now.
So, Eric, what was your thoughts about their whole experience of homeschooling? Because you didn't kind of come from that type of background. You kind of married into it. So, what were your
Right.
thinking?
Um, so, we've both actually gone to public school ourselves. And when we were first married, the children were at CLA. Um, and we talked back and forth and we went to the homeschool convention, and I really enjoyed a lot of the talks at the homeschool convention.
hmm
Yeah, it was really inspiring, I guess. Um, and I really liked the fact that the parents are so involved and they're there with the kids, and as they learn and as they have questions, and um, especially as they get older, the questions get maybe a little bit more deep,
Yeah.
um, and to be able to be there with them during that time um,
And help them
is
to kind of
great.
wrestle through the
Yeah.
theology and the ideas and things that they're
Yep.
experiencing too. I enjoy doing that with my kids
Yep.
as they're being exposed to something different or something
Yep.
new and fresh, and just walking them through that journey was one of my favorite things to do with homeschooling.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. seeing them learn and pick up things is just, yeah, I enjoy that.
So what has been your guys' biggest enjoyment with homeschooling?
I would say a lot of it's just the flexibility.
Uh-huh.
Um, if we want to take a trip to Florida in February when nobody else is on spring break, and we can make that our spring break. And if we want to go with some other school families and go to the Museum of Science and History for a field trip, and we can
Mm-hmm.
do that. There's a lot of others that we know that homeschool also that um, it's great to spend time with.
Right.
So I enjoy that
Anything
part.
to add, Leanne?
Yeah, some of the just maybe red tape and politics that comes along with the public schools or even anything organized can be just overwhelming. And so I like the independence too.
Mm-hmm.
And I also just really enjoy sitting down with my children and just reading with them or watching them do their work, just seeing how they process. And um, I love that they get extra grandparent time because there's just more hours that you can work with because it doesn't
Right.
take as long. Um, so things like going to maybe a nursing home to sing with some other moms and kids or um, just switching things around. It's a good weather day. Let's go outside and we'll do that other stuff on a rainy day. Or
Mm-hmm.
I love that kind of thing. I love being able to kind of work it into their schedules. Also, a big thing that's important to us, maybe this comes later in your questions, but um, when they're young teens, they can get jobs pretty easily.
Yeah.
And that has just developed really good characters in our kids and character traits. And they can begin seeing income and working with expenses and learning kind of life skills too at a
Right.
young age. And I just have really appreciated that. And they couldn't do that if they were in school all day long. So, like
That's
my
true.
son milked cows, and my daughter
Mhm.
works at a coffee shop, and my other daughter taught piano lessons. And those experiences were invaluable. I don't know,
Right.
it couldn't have really been taught at that age. So,
One of my
those help.
favorite things for me is I enjoy learning right alongside with my kids. And I'm excited because one of the things that we have planned is we're going to be doing a trip to Washington, D.C. this summer. And we're going to be going to like all of the monuments and the museums and everything. And that's just something that I enjoy doing with my kids and having that experience and that they might not necessarily get when if they
Hmm.
were in public school. So it's just one of those things I like to do myself.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what has been your guys's, we kind of talked about the enjoyment of homeschooling and what your favorite parts was, but there's an opposite side of that. And there are challenges that come with homeschooling. What has been your guys's biggest challenge with homeschooling?
Absolutely. There's challenges. There's no easy way to get education done, I'm pretty convinced. But one of the things that has faced us, and I'm pretty sure with each child at some point along the way, is the temptation to cheat. And I think it's
Mhm.
because there's a lot of independence in our
Right.
home. And so I trust them a lot. And it raises good questions then when it does happen to like how should this have been instructed? Maybe I put too much on you
Hmm.
that made you want to cheat, or maybe we need to get to the heart and see, why this is there. Is it just a laziness, or is the workload too heavy or whatever? But that's been a challenge because then when I find out, it's like, well, how do I handle this? Do I go
Right.
back and redo this work? Do I do some form of discipline, or is this just simply learning and growing? And so that's been a challenge for me with each one along the way, but it's
I
been
find
good.
that interesting that you brought that up because a lot of people wouldn't necessarily think about that. and homeschooling. But our family has dealt with that too. Is about because there is a temptation because, like you mentioned, it's very much homeschooling is very a lot of times independent work, and you're
Mhm.
working on a relationship with your children, and you're learning to trust each other. And so, like you mentioned, it brings up good character issues, and it brings up questions and of how to approach this and what we're learning and what was the reason behind it, kind of thing. So it can develop the character later on too. So definitely
Yeah.
thank you for bringing that up because that's a good thing.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I know some of that happened in the public school too, as far as, but we might not have ever known about it as parents.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
So
if you
it
don't know
brings up
about
a
it, then how
good,
can you bring it
it,
up with your children and how can you
right.
discuss it as the
It
character issues?
brings up a good opportunity to talk about ethics and, what's the right thing to do and, what's, yeah, brings some good
Exactly.
discussion.
Well, that kind
Another
of
challenge
actually,
is,
go
oh,
ahead.
go ahead. This is off the subject, but another challenge in homeschooling for me is we are constantly in our home. So like the kids are there all the time. So it's not a very clean place, organized necessarily. I mean, to a point, but they're
Right.
there all day long, all week long. And so the kitchen's open all the time. There's always stuff everywhere. I mean, you're just living in it. And I don't know what that would be like if they left for 8 hours a day. That would
Right.
maybe be completely different. But so I find it challenging to just find one point of the day to just let's clean up this place.
Oh, this is really good. I
Every
love that
room
you
is like
guys
a
are bringing the
schoolroom.
realness to homeschooling. This is great. I love it. Because,
But it's
like
a
you said,
happy place.
yeah.
A
Homeschooling
little,
does have its
a
challenges. So,
a
yeah, go
little
ahead.
humor, a little humor in that. So our youngest daughter once took some tape and stuck it across from the fridge to the island and said kitchen closed because sometimes it's like the kitchen never closes, right? So
You're right.
2 o'clock, it's time for, I don't know what that's called, lunch number two or whatever, but
Second breakfast,
yeah.
afternoon tea. We could be hobbits now.
And
Levensies.
the kids take turns doing dishes. So I think must have been her turn for dishes. So she was like, kitchen's closed.
Oh,
Um,
that's great. That's great. So the kind of leads us into our next question I have for you guys is how your kids have enjoyed the homeschooling journey.
Yeah. Do you have the notes from Lexi?
yeah, I don't took a few notes of what Whitley said. Did
Okay.
you add Lexi's to here?
No, I don't think so. I got it right here.
So, um, let's see here.
My oldest said transition into college was easy. Starting
Mm,
college online during high school for dual credits helped her a lot. Um, that was just her input.
hmm
The younger girls said starting the year earlier. Sometimes they're ready to start school earlier in August, or so it's like,
Right.
okay, you want to start school, start school,
I think one
and
summer we started once July 4th passed.
and and then then they're done earlier than some of their friends
Right.
because they started earlier. So they like getting done earlier because like it's really nice right now, and a lot of their friends are still in school for this week, and they can hop in the pool or something,
Right. Mhm.
Um, so that part they liked. The other thing that they said, um, able to work ahead. And so
Mhm.
a lot of our kids did a lot of college classes and worked ahead even on some of their high school work. So I think our oldest daughter graduated a semester early, went ahead and started college full time,
Mhm.
um, and stuff like that. So they liked that part as far as getting going on their college time.
For sure. Like
Um,
you mentioned earlier, is homeschooling creates a real opportunity for independence, and they can work at their own pace. And so, if they want to work extra and they want to work quicker and get some things done quicker, they can do that, which they may not
Mm-hmm.
get the opportunity in public school.
Yeah.
None of the kids brought out any of their maybe negatives about it, but
Mhm.
I would say each of them has had to work a little harder at friendships than maybe they would if they went to school.
Mhm.
But their friendships are maybe um, more varied in age too, which
Yeah.
I like. I like it that they have some friends that are 3 or 4 years older than them and some that are 3 or 4 years younger than them. And they connect really well with elderly and with babies. And that's a real plus to me.
That's definitely great because with homeschooling too, I had that same experience. Like my girls, they volunteered in a nursing home a few years of their high school, and they were able to connect with elderly people that are people that are way above their age, that connect with adults, connect with babies, like you said, and then even people around their own age. It's such a wide span because they're used to being around all age spans. They're not stuck in a room with kids that are their same age. And so they can learn
Hmm.
how to socialize with all kinds of ages and backgrounds.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, one last question I have for you guys is we've had some great comments and some great questions and things that I've actually not talked with other people, families about. So I know that families who are going to be listening to this are going to get a different viewpoint of homeschooling is you have high schoolers and you've graduated some. I have high school, I've graduated some, and I haven't really talked to too many families about homeschooling high school and what the transition into life and graduation and the transition into college and after has gone. So why don't you guys talk a little bit about that?
Well, probably one of the most overwhelming things with homeschooling is when I actually signed my name to their transcript. It was like, oh my goodness, do I really have the authority to do this?
I was
But
there too. I was so there too. I was second guessing myself with my oldest when I graduated. My oldest, I'm like, what if I didn't teach her something? What if she
yes,
fails in college?
I know, I know. But ICC was great and they both went there. So I don't know any experience other than ICC as far as their transition from high school to college. But they were really good. They have the homeschool morning that you can go to in February or March to
Mm-hmm.
learn about homeschoolers getting into college. They have a special advisor for homeschool families, I think, at ICC. Um, they were just really, really easy transition there. But then from ICC to Olivet, where Lexi went,
Mm-hmm.
that was there was a lot of meetings there to get the credits just right to transfer and all that stuff. But she did have to take kind of heavier loads her junior year, but she was able to handle it okay.
Right.
And she's planning to get her degree in Spanish education. She went to Mexico last summer for 6 weeks. She is in Spain right now for 8 weeks. And then she will student teach in the spring and graduate next May. So the engagement came along, and we were curious how that would affect all this, but she's still going to be able to finish her degree, it
Mm-hmm.
looks like. So their wedding's in December.
Oh, that's great.
So, and then Wesley just finished his freshman year at ICC. He's studying engineering, robotics, and controls. So Tremont has a really good robotics program, and homeschoolers can be a part of it because it's not a school sponsored club.
Mm-hmm.
And so he did that for 1 year and had some great experiences, and that kind of helped him choose his major.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he works at 360. They already have him doing a lot of design work as a freshman. So he plans to transfer to Bradley and complete his degree in, what would it be? 27, I guess.
I haven't even thought about that
Yeah.
yet.
Yeah. So, but
Yeah.
he's not planning to go anywhere internationally,
Yeah.
at least not like Lexi has.
Well, I know that colleges can be different too, depending on what college that your child goes to. And we kind of have something in common because my oldest went to Olivet.
Huh?
Also, she
Yeah.
graduated from Olivet. And I know that a lot of colleges now do have specific counselors just to be able to help homeschooling parents come along. For me, the biggest thing I encourage homeschooling parents nowadays with this because what I learned from graduating my oldest is I remember because my oldest graduated a year early from homeschooling. And I remember feeling like I had failed her because I was going to all of these colleges and they were like, oh, you haven't applied yet. Oh, you haven't gotten grants yet. Well, you're way behind. You are so far behind that I don't know if you're going to be able to come up. Now, my daughter graduated from a 4-year university completely debt free. She got just the amount of grants that she needed. She got just the amount of scholarships she needed. She didn't take out a student loan and she worked
Wow.
through going through it. And it can be done. And so I
Yeah,
guess
it can
my
be.
my experience as a homeschooling parent would be to not let them scare you into thinking that you got to do it on their timeline. As
Yep.
homeschoolers, we realize that we can do things on our timeline and it
Yeah.
still works
Yeah.
out.
Yes. Yes.
So I got a little bit of experience there. You have a little bit of experience with homeschooling high schoolers. I definitely encourage people who are watching these videos that if you want to talk to a family that has
Hmm.
experience with graduating homeschoolers or homeschooling high schoolers, we are definitely available. And I definitely appreciate you and Eric's time of sitting down and talking with me tonight and us getting to know you guys a little bit better and to encourage homeschooling families and people that
Yeah.
may be considering homeschooling. So thank you very much for joining us tonight, guys.
Yeah, you bet.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And again, we are here tonight with Patch, and we are doing our family spotlight for the month of June. If you would like to be a family spotlight family, you can contact Patch through Facebook Messenger, through Instagram, or through email. We would love to connect with you guys and get to know a little bit about your guys' family. So again, thanks, Eric Leanne, for joining us tonight.
You bet.